Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Joshana here to talk about some friggin' rereads. I'm wearing one of my World Hoppers shirts today, but I don't think you can you see the logo? It's the paint splatter one. Oh geez, I'm probably making so much noise. Yeah, today I'm doing a combo tag. There are two different reread book tags. There was the original one, which I think was by Just One Reader. And then there's a 2020 version because I think these two people that created it didn't realize that Just One Reader had one from before, so they named theirs the 2020 version. Yes, Scally Dandling About the Books is the channel that came up with the other one. So I'm just gonna do both because the one that was from before, Just One Readers, is shorter. There are 6 questions. And then the newer one from 2020 has 9 questions. So I'm just gonna do them. It's 15 questions total. Math. So first, the original reread book tag by Just One Reader. Question number 1 is a book from your childhood that you want to reread. I have a lot because I just kind of want to reread all of my childhood books, which I have a shelf down here for actually 2 shelves. I do have 2 shelves. Julie of the Wolves is definitely one because that was my favorite when I was a kid. I don't know how many times I read that book when I was a child. So that definitely is one, but I mean, really all of them at some point I want to reread. Number 2, a book that you want to reread because you didn't like it the first time. And I would say normally I don't have that as a thing on my reread journey because I'm pretty definitive when I don't like a book. I mean, I DNF a fair amount, you guys know, and I can't even think of a time where I like put a book down for another time. Like if I'm done with it, I'm done with it. And if I don't like a book, I'm like, why would I reread that, right? But there is a book that I did not really care for the first time around at all, per my review for it, which was like very early in my channel life also. So it's probably really cringy. But that was The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I did not enjoy that reading experience. I felt like it was pretentious. My experience reading the book, it just left me feeling as though the author was trying to be vague and difficult just to be vague and difficult. Do you know what I mean? And now, do I think that's the truth of it? Not necessarily. That's just how I read it and how I interpreted it. It felt like, look at how very smart I am and intellectual and deep. My book is very difficult. And that was how I read it, and that was my experience with it. I did not have a good time reading that book. And again, I'm not saying that I think that is actually how N.K. Jemisin is. At all. 0%. I'm sure she is not. But yeah, I just didn't have a good time with it. It felt pretentious. I didn't like it. But I do want to give that one another chance because I think a big problem for me in my original read of that was that I listened to it on audio. And again, it was very early in my BookTube journey. And I had almost never listened to audiobooks, I don't think. No, I had listened to a couple audiobooks prior to getting on BookTube. And I hadn't yet learned that more often than not, trying to read a fantasy book for the first time on audio does not work for me. Especially a book like The Fifth Season. It is very complex and there's a lot going on. And I just think it wasn't the best choice for me to experience that book for the first time. So I do want to read the physical book and see if I have a different experience with it. Long fucking story short, Jesus Christ, this is supposed to be the shorter tag. The Fifth Season, I do want to reread that. Number 3, a book you want to reread because you read it a long time ago. I mean, any of my childhood books, obviously. Actually, one of the books on my seasonal TBR for my rereads for that is Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So I'll go with that because it's been, I don't even know, probably 10 years since I read that. Number 4, a book you want to reread because you didn't understand it the first time. Again, I don't really have this, but I mean, The Fifth Season could work for that as well. There were definitely elements that I didn't understand even after completing the book. I was like, what is happening? And, like I said, it felt like the author was trying to be confusing for the sake of being confusing, but I think I just didn't have enough brain cells for it. Maybe I don't still. We'll see. Number 5, a book that you'd like even more upon the second reading, or just a book that will benefit from a second reading. Lots. I think The House in the Cerulean Sea I will enjoy even more on the reread probably. And I think the first 4 books in the Legends of the First Empire series, I have read those, but I'm going to reread them, and in order to finish the series, the 5th and the 6th book. And yeah, I definitely think I will get more out of them the second time, since I'll be reading them basically back to back, more back to back than I did the first time, which was I read them as they were published. Number 6, a book that you will read for the rest of your life. And this, I really like this question because that's kind of how I determine favorites of all time, is books that I just want to be reading always, forever, until I die. And I have City of Girls is absolutely one of those. I'm sure I will reread that book countless times. And then House in the Cerulean Sea as well. I imagine I'll reread that a lot. I'll Give You the Sun, I think, as well. I've read that one twice within a couple years, and it'll probably be a pretty regular reread for me. The Hunger Games, I'm certain I will reread that many times as well. And it's very early to say this, so this is just speculation, but I imagine probably the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. There's only the one book out currently, but I already want to reread it. And if the rest of that series continues in that way, and the things about her writing that I enjoy improve, and the things that I didn't love about her earlier works are resolved, then I think that will probably be a series that I'll want to reread too. There we go. Those are the 6 questions for Just Juan Readers Reread Book Tag. Now on to the 2020 version. Number 1, let's assume you do reread if you're doing this tag. Yes, I do. So where do you sit on the rereading scale from almost never to all the time? I would say probably like all the time. I guess I don't know what people would consider all the time. I know there are some people who never reread, who really don't enjoy rereading. I clearly thoroughly love it, but I keep track of this on my stats. So far this year, 23% of the books I have read have been rereads. Every month I've read at least one reread. This is also a little higher than normal probably because I did reread the entire Sookie Stackhouse series this year, and that's 13 books. And then I reread Soulless as well, or the Parasol Protectorate series, which is 5 books. So I did a fair amount of like extra rereads. Every seasonal TBR has 2. So I will read, what's math? At least 8 per year, because there's 4 seasonal TBRs. So at least 8 rereads per year, but I often pull some off to do extra ones too. Number 2 is, has that changed over your reading life? And I would say no. I've kind of always been keen on rereading, Like I said, when I was a kid, I would reread my favorites regularly. My copy of The Railway Children from my childhood is tattered. And Julie of the Wolves, tattered. Face on the Milk Carton, that's another one I want to reread. I can't even tell you how many times I read that book. So rereading has always been something that I enjoy and that I strive to do. In the last year, I have definitely kind of ramped it up a little bit. I think the first bit being on BookTube for a couple years, it was just new books, new books, new books. And then I was like, I want to get back to rereading more. So that's why I started including 2 reread selections on my seasonal TBR. So number 3 is, when do you reread? Immediately after finishing a book, maybe a couple years later, or just when the mood strikes? And I mean, like I just explained, I do have a set seasonal TBR, so I'm reading at least 8 per year. And I just have a TBR reread shelf on Goodreads that I randomly select from. So some could be from years and years ago, some could be from a year ago, it could be from 6 months ago, it just depends. City of Girls was not on that, but I read it, loved it. And then one of my friends wanted to read it, and I was like, I will buddy read it with you. So I reread that one within like 6 months of the first read. So it just kind of depends, really. I have no, like, I won't reread a book literally immediately. I don't think I would ever do that, probably, because I like to give myself a little time to see how I feel about it and, you know, settle into my feelings about a book and get a little bit of space to miss it. And then, so probably a few months at least, I would say, would be my minimum of how long I would wait to reread a book. Number 4 is, why do you reread books? I basically just really, really enjoy reliving stories that I love. And so whether it's books or TV shows or movies, etc., I mean, when I get something that I like, I will just rewatch it. Sitcoms, my favorite sitcoms, Will and Grace, How I Met Your Mother, That 70s Show, except for now it's off of fucking Netflix, and that makes me angry. A little bit of Frasier, Scrubs, Kimmy Schmidt, Schitt's Creek. I just have them on loop all the time. Schitt's Creek, I watched the seasons that were available on Netflix and then literally immediately started it over again. And I mean, I think the first time I watched it was maybe 6 months ago, maybe a year ago. I've seen it, the whole series now, like 6 times. I literally, Will and Grace, I own all on DVD, and I really got into Will and Grace my freshman year of college. I think the show had been over already, and I just was collecting them on DVD. And I literally have no idea how many times I have watched that entire show, all of the seasons. I just have it on loop. I just have it on all the fucking time, constantly. If I'm taking naps, if I'm puttering around the house, sometimes if I'm reading, I just turn it down really low, but like I have it on as I'm reading. Like it's just always on. All these sitcoms. And then like Game of Thrones, I've mentioned before my obsession with reaction videos because I want to relive it like for the first time again, but I can't. So I just watch other people living it for the first time, experiencing it for the first time, and it gives me that like serotonin boost of like, oh shit, they're about to see this one episode that's like my favorite, oh my god, and then I see their reaction to it, and if they cry, I cry, like I get so involved. And with books, yeah, it's like I want to live in that world again. I miss these characters. I want to see them again. I want to relive their story again and get to know them better. I don't know. It's just, oh, I love it. Number 5 is, how do you reread? Faster, slower, or just the best bits? And I guess I reread the same way that I read for the first time. I don't know. I'm reading a book. I don't do it differently, I guess. Number 6, who or what do you reread? More specifically, which authors or genres or individual books? I guess, I reread what I want. Books that are favorites. I don't know. I guess one thing is books that I enjoyed enough to want to own. If I enjoyed a book to the point where I think I could reread it in the future, that means I want to own it. So, I mean, essentially any book that you see on these shelves that I have read already would count as something I would want to reread. That's kind of how I gauge whether or not I want to own a book is, am I ever going to have the desire to read this again? And if I don't, even if I liked it well enough, like Cinderella is Dead was a really good example. I think I gave that 3 or 3.5 stars, and I blew through that book. It wasn't one of my favorites ever, but like it was a good time, and I think it was a good fairy tale retelling. But I was like, I'm never going to reread this, so let me get rid of it. Number 7 is there a book that you found you enjoyed better when you reread it? And I don't think so. I'm trying to think of maybe the Seven Realms, but I don't think I enjoyed them more. You know what, actually? Yes. The Throne of Glass series, frickin' Empire of Storms. I really kind of hated it. I didn't hate it. I shouldn't say that. But I really was disappointed with it the first time I read it. And it wasn't like one of my favorites of the series from memory when I reread, but I did enjoy it more on the reread, so I guess that counts. Number 8, and which one was worse on the reread? Well, you guys know the answer to this, right? With frickin' Sookie. Frickin' Sookie. The Sookie Stackhouse series. Nostalgia was murdered with that one. Number 9, which book have you reread the most? And I don't know, honestly. I would think probably The Railway Children, based on the milk carton. Like for my childhood, for sure, those probably. But then older ones. So I reread almost the same books every Christmas, every holiday season. So there's Let It Snow, which I'm not going to reread anymore because only really one of the stories I actually enjoyed the last time I reread that. But Starry, Starry Night is another one. What Child Is This? Which I will reread. That one's a novella too. And then for like other books that aren't like, you know, ones that I reread every holiday season or whatever, I think probably The Hunger Games. I've read that, I want to say 4 times. Have I reread that 4 times? I think so. So probably The Hunger Games for now. I could see City of Girls and I'll Give You the Sun and House in the Cerulean Sea, though, jumping up there probably in the next couple of years. And there we have it. Those are the questions. Hopefully this was a good time for you guys listening to me yammer on about rereading books. Let me know down below if you are a rereader or not. Because like I said, I know there are lots of people who just can't be bothered to reread, don't really care to, are more concerned with all the new books that they want to get to, you know, which is fine. So yeah, I'm always interested if people do enjoy rereading, and maybe you do want to, but you just get too distracted with newer books, and then you're like, oh, I want to reread. Or maybe you just straight up don't really care to reread. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.